Hello and welcome back to the ContenTable tutorial series. In this episode, we're going to go through the settings menu and talk about each of the options for serializing your content. So, to open the settings menu, first select the sheet that you would like to apply these settings to, as each sheet has its own set of settings. Then click the settings button. This will open a separate settings menu. Alright, so you see first and foremost there are two different groups of settings. So there's document settings, which apply to the entire document, and then there are sheet settings. And we'll go through each of these one at a time. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the text output file. Text output file has to do with text extraction, so we'll talk more about this at a different time, but basically this just sets where the text, once it's extracted, where it's going to be written to. By default, it goes to assets/content/text.xlsx. Again, that'll make more sense when we talk about text extraction in full. Okay, so the first item in the sheet setting is the output directory, and so I have other buildings selected, and you can see it outputs to the other buildings folder, which is this folder down here. So let's say I wanted all my building definitions to be put in the same folder, buildings. Then I would just open this up, select buildings, and there we go. And now you can see it's buildings. Of course, you can also type it in manually if you prefer. And if you type it into a value that presently does not exist, then next time you export your content, export your scriptable objects, it will generate that folder for you. Now the next setting is the output file prefix, and this starts off by default being empty. And all this does is that if I type something in here, this prefix will be appended to all of the file names for the files here. So if I typed something here, it would be something_building_farm. Pretty simple. This one's kind of a situational setting, but trust me, I have needed it in the past, so there's a reason it's here. This here is another text extraction feature, and what this is when you do text extraction, we'll get into this in more detail in a later video, but when you do text extraction, it generates a key value to assign to that little bit of text. And this is just a way of formatting that, that key value. So you can put in a literal value, so I could say building dash, or you can also put in a variable here, and that's what you see here in between the brackets. Those are variables, and I'll go into more detail about that in the video on text extraction. So the next setting here, we have a toggle that says text only. And this, if you toggle this, it means that the sheet does not need to be serialized to a scriptable object. You just want to extract text from it. And as I've said before, I'll show you what that looks like when we get to the text extraction episode. Lastly, we have clear unlisted files. So if you toggle this setting, then if you were to, so let's say, let's open up our sheet here. So let's say I didn't want to have farms in my game for whatever reason. So I delete farms. What it will do then is it will scan this folder. Well, actually it won't scan that folder because we didn't set it to read that folder. So maybe I should set this back so that you can see that in play. So other buildings. but it will scan this folder. It will scan the output directory for items that don't show up on the sheet, and if it doesn't show up in the spreadsheet, then it will say that's old content, we don't need it anymore, and it will delete it from your project directory. So let's go ahead and see these options. We're going to get rid of the output file prefix field, and we're going to run this. And so now I haven't made any changes to my data, so you're not going to see any changes in the changes sheet. But you can see down here in the files to delete pop-up, which normally is just, down here deactivated if that option isn't set. You can see this little fold-out lists farm, building _ farm as something to be deleted because it no longer appears on our sheet. So if I confirm this, you will see it's now no longer in my project directory. So that's a good way to keep your, if you're changing file names or you're keeping, your game's going through a lot of iteration and you're adding stuff and deleting it all the time. That's a good way to keep your project directory nice and tidy. Lastly, to show off this feature, so we have our something here. If I serialize this sheet, you can see it serializes to something _ building _ tower, and it does not fit in this column, but yeah, confirm that. You can see it's it right there. So that's how the prefix works. Anyway, that's all there is to say about the settings menu. So as always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.